Welcome back, everyone. We are here. It's a Sunday night breakdown. You're going to see this Sunday night. We're recording it a little bit early because we have a new guest, EJ Holt, who helped us with all of our film grades this year, is here. We're going to talk about this draft, what the Chiefs did, what the rest of the league did, who's keeping up and who isn't. And we might even have a little appearance from Avery. You never know. We'll talk here right now on RGR Football. Welcome back to RGR Football, everybody. I'm Ryan. This is us going rogue with Dan Harms and EJ Holt. You can say hi to him. We're going to get in tonight to a couple of new things. If you're new, like, sub, hit the bell, because there's going to be a lot more coming. It's Sunday as we've seen the rookie mini camps begin, at least for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about taking a step back about what this draft process was like and what the Chiefs got here. And EJ actually did our eval on McDuffie when we did our film grades. I've gone back and watched a ton of it as well. I had actually seen him because I'm a UW fan most of the time. A bunch of my high school friends are still from up there, so I get to see them a lot. But EJ, I know this is kind of weird on a Chiefs channel, but given all the work that you've done, what did you think of their draft class?
I think they did quite well. From what I see from Spags, he used to be a DC defensive coach down here in Philly. So from what I remember about him, he is all gas, no brakes. He wants to attack. And I like to pick a George Karlaftis because I think he's probably going to try to slide him on the interior on rushing downs and probably use him as that strong side defensive end on regular downs. Trent McDuffie, you got a solid player. You're going to throw him on the outside. He can play on the inside as well. And it gives you a lot of versatility in that backfield because y'all got L'Jarius Sneed who can play some safety, who can play some outside corner. Now you can mix and match and do whatever you want to, especially because with Trent McDuffie, really your only knock on him is length. He's not 6'1", 200 pounds with 35-inch arms, but he can cover. He can play man. He can play zone, and the arm length is only an issue if he allows separation. Trent McDuffie doesn't allow a ton of separation, so that minimizes the arm length issue. I think he's an excellent fit for what the Chiefs do on defense.
I'm looking forward to both those guys. Dan loves George Karlaftis, so we're just going to throw parties left and right.
Is that right? Is that right? It was my
I just
favorite.
wanted to put it out there.
My absolute favorite pick of the draft right there.
I think the really interesting thing to me, and your favorite team was involved in this, obviously the team we cover was involved in this. There were more trades than I can recall in the first round in a long, long time. And I at first, while I was doing it live, it felt like it was the scramble to get out of the way of having to take a quarterback. Good for them for not doing it. Kudos to the league for watching your boards and not taking quarterbacks for no reason. But as I look back on it now, though, it comes to me that it's more than just that. It was the quality of the wide receiver class, at least up top. It was the quality of the edge rusher class up top. And I was going to go to Dan, but EJ, what's your thoughts on those two positions and what this draft really entailed?
With the draft, I think they told us the story. One thing they told us what they value, because you look at I think it's like your first 14, 15 picks. They were offensive tackles, edge rushers, corners, wide receivers. It seems like the league has adopted that shell philosophy that actually Andy Reid really started, is that you value the outside. Those are your money positions. And then you can fill in the interior later, which seems to be the opposite from years past. But that's what the league is valuing now. And I think with all the trades, it seems like basically all the wide receiver trades we've seen in this offseason, I think the wide receiver position is going the way of the running back, where it's so oversaturated. It's so much talent coming in. You have pretty much in the NFL, you have the haves and the have-nots. The haves are the teams that can draft and develop wide receivers. The have-nots are the ones that can't, and they have to go trade for one. So it's just like it's like half the league is like, okay, I can draft wide receivers, I don't got to pay for them, and the other half is like, I got to pay for them because I can't draft wide receivers, i.e. the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's a shift in philosophy in the league, and it's exciting to see because it's gonna change a whole lot.
I think so too, and it feels like it's what we're seeing. It's not the driver. What we saw with the free agency and now the draft in terms of the wide receiver position is not the cause, but it's the effect. Because of, like you said, when you can't develop, you got to go get them somehow. Whether it's free agency overspending Christian Kirk or whether it's these crazy drafts. So I know, Dan, it caught us by surprise when Hill got traded, but looking at what the league did at the draft level, doesn't that play into, if you're going to overpay, get as much value for him as you can? And now the Chiefs were able to reset a number of positions because of what that market has become.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to have the oversaturation of the wide receiver market, but you're also going to have the guys that deserve to get paid. And the way that the league sees that is, okay, I'm going to go get, apparently opening blinds in my room, I'm going to get a Tyreek Hill. I'm going to go get an A.J. Brown. I'm going to go find a way to make my team better because I see a window, okay? I have a young quarterback or an opportunity to get a young quarterback. And that's really the way of the mold right now is you have these teams, the Broncos and a couple other, like the Lions, for example, are trying to build the team first. If you can get those guys in the building and you can fill out the rest of your team and then maybe draft or even trade for a quarterback and plop them in place, you have a window. You're trying to create the window, and the wide receiver position is one of the areas that we're seeing the top of those players, of the top of those pools, starting to fill out. There's teams that are like, okay, we can do this. We can bring you in, and we can find a way to make this window work. So the Chiefs, who had their window, they went to 2 Super Bowls, they won 1, and then everyone said, okay, here comes the regression. All right. So Kansas City said, we're gonna try to retain Tyreek Hill. And they did. They offered him $22 million a year. He said no. Okay. We're not going to overpay because we understand that the value of not only the wide receiver position for us, but for everybody else. Let's go get what we can in terms of not just cap space, but draft capital, and then reset our own window. Because if you look at the draft that the Kansas City Chiefs had, yes, they got Skye Moore, who's not going to be a replacement for Tyreek Hill by any stretch, but you filled out at least 3 to 4 starters in this specific draft class for your window for the next at least 3 years. You have Patrick Mahomes, and you know that he's going to be in Kansas City the rest of his career. So they are one of the first teams that we've seen try to take that window and one of the top players at the position at wide receiver and expand their window by taking defensive players and starters in this specific draft, in a draft that wasn't extremely good in terms of the top level talent at quarterback, but they got a lot of guys that are coming and going to be plug and play starters. So it's an interesting dynamic, and the Chiefs might be at the forefront right now of realizing the value of wide receiver at the top and trying to expand a window that a lot of people thought was regressing because of the way that they had to pay some of these players.
I'm going to take your analogy one step further. When you got a window and you take out one side of the frame, right, which was Tyreek Hill, now you can piece it back together. Maybe you need multiple pieces. You need more anchors, put it all back together, seal it back up. Maybe the crank still needs some help. You know what I mean? But by doing that, now you have a wide receiver core that in total costs less than Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
A lot of guys that, even though they're on second contracts, they're not bank breakers. And so to EJ's point, now that makes the Chiefs look like, in terms of the comparison to the running back position, it becomes, okay, we need to turn over all these contracts all the time. We need to have rookie contracts all the time at this position. And maybe we have one guy at the top. Maybe we have 2 that are second contract guys that are lower down. And that builds you your core. For the Chiefs, that's super important. But it also has to mean that you have to hit on your draft picks. So, EJ, what was your impression of Skye Moore, and what do you like about him coming into an offense that can use him in multiple ways?
I like his stop and start quickness. Like you could see when at Western Michigan, they played him at the boundary X position, so he saw press coverage a ton, and he beat it. Like he beat it with ease. They ran a lot of slants, a lot of quick hitters, so he had to get open really quick, and that's what he did. I was surprised that he ran the 4.3 at the combine. I really didn't see that deep threat 4.3 speed going down the field. But if he's got it in him, I'm sure they'll find a way to get it out of him. But in the meantime, he's going to get open underneath, and he's going to have run after the catch abilities. Yeah, he has really good hands. He's a solid player. I thought he was a plug and play slot receiver.
I like it too. In fact, you hit on something that I noticed too. Like, for his size, he beat man more than I expected. Mm-hmm. The only guy that beat man better than I expected, better than Skye Moore, was Calvin Austin, who's even smaller. Yeah. So like those two guys most surprised me. And I think that also is something that we can look for in the future. Guys that are just good route runners, they can understand leverage and have enough capability in contact to break that contact enough to get away, and then use your athletic traits to move on from that. That is something that I think that the league has been up and down about identifying athleticism. As somebody who starts most years with athleticism, because I want those guys, I think that trend goes away at times when you get position specific. Quarterback's one of those where you don't need to be the athlete. Dan, the Chiefs obviously are set at quarterback, but having these guys that fall, that set the Chiefs up to be in a position to take these other things like McDuffie, like Karlaftis, like Chanel. And honestly, the guy that I think might have the biggest impact as a rookie is Cook. I love his game. We're going to get to EJ on him in a second, but just the way that this draft fell for the Chiefs, Dan, did they hit lightning because the quarterback class was so bad and they needed so many things filled? This was the perfect year to do this?
I don't necessarily I mean, typically you see players fall because of a good quarterback class. That's typically we see guys trading up to go get those quarterbacks, but it didn't really work out that way. So you have the vast run in the first 5 picks with defensive end and corner. Those guys were there. And then you started to see the trading up. And that's where I think that benefited the Chiefs, because I think teams had specific guys. They were like, okay, we know this quarterback class isn't good, so we need to go find those guys that we have on our board that we think are plug and play dudes that will impact our team, and not necessarily trying to get the value in the board, but just going to get your guy. It doesn't matter where it is, what it is, trying to find a way to do that. You saw that with the Lions fleecing the Minnesota Vikings to get Jameson Williams. That was an incredible trade for the Lions all around. They got the best playmaker in this entire draft class, and they did it for relatively cheap. Like, they didn't do very much to go get him. And then that started to push some players like Trent McDuffie down. You started to see an interesting fall. I had him going 12 to the Vikings originally picked there. I thought he would just kind of plug and play. They need cornerback help. Made a lot of sense. But then again, not only was he, Drake London going at 8 kind of started that wide receiver fall. You have Garrett Wilson going at 10, Olave going at 11 with the Saints going up to get him. Like, then you start to see that's why the Lions were like, okay, we have to go get him now. And then again, there's just more of those trades going to get, Kenyon Green. It really felt like teams had these guys, these specific guys that they were like, we have to go get. And then they did that. And then it started to find ways down the board. And then I'm not entirely sure about Leo Chanel specifically, because I think I thought he should have gone in the second round. But again, runs on different positions and different players, and again, more athletic ability. He tested really well. So that one always surprises me. You're going to find players that fall for no reason at all in the draft. But yeah, I think that the way that this ended up falling for Kansas City, with teams seeing this draft for what it was and highlighting specific players on their board that they had the opportunity to go get, benefited them a lot with playing it nicely, and they didn't have to trade up a whole lot, only just to get McDuffie, and then they played it as it was. So I was really happy with how they managed the board, let it fall to them in different ways. And then again, when Skye Moore was on the board, they just said, we'll trade back, let other teams take players that they wouldn't have taken, and then gotten a better player and with some more draft capital. So it worked out really well, and Brett Veach did a great job of just managing the board as it fell to him.
And by the way, folks, being able to do that means that you've done your research and you've run your scenarios in mock drafting. And it's not what we do as mocks, but the team does it themselves in order to know what they expect from the other teams. Now, obviously, they have communication as well. That communication allowed them to not only trade back, but to then come back later and get Brian Cook, who is a player that I had much higher than everyone else, and he still went about 10 spots higher than I had him. So I was happy to see it, but I was kind of relieved. And I know you did all of his film, EJ. What was your impression of him, and how do you like his fit in Kansas City?
Yeah, he's gonna be, if they're gonna have, like, say, a coverage safety, he can be that guy that comes down as a robber, take away the underneath routes. Where he's really gonna show up is against the run game. And he's going to be at that guided missile that you can't account for in the protection, and he's going to blow up the run game because he's a hitter. He likes to hit. He hits guys and they fall down. That's what he does. But he's got the athleticism to be an asset in coverage. I could see him developing into that tight end eraser. You want to put him on your tight ends. You want to have him slow down guys. I don't like him against slot receivers necessarily, but I want to keep him free. I want him attacking downhill, and I would like to see him. And you probably could rush him, blitz him some, because like you want to take advantage of that physicality that he has. But he has a physical profile as a physical player, but he has some of the athleticism to be good in coverage and to be solid in coverage as well. So yeah, I think he could be an all-around player, and I think he's gonna be just fine over there in KC.
Yeah, I like exactly how you put that, because that's what I have in my notes too. Like his physicality against tight ends and practicing against Travis Kelce is only going to make him better. So I'm looking forward to that. But it's the space and it's the change of direction. I think his hips are fine for safety. I wouldn't call him a corner. But like you said, against the slots, especially the quicker ones, I think he'll have a little bit of trouble. But I like his versatility as well. I didn't see him play high enough. I did see him play some split zones, but not singles. So I don't think that he's a true like 1-for-1 where you can split him out and leave him as the lone over the top guy. But how do you like him in splits?
Yeah, and like in a dual high safety look, yeah. Like, because you just splitting the field in half. You want to play some cover 2 with him. I think he's fine doing that, because a lot of that with him in space, a lot of that is route recognition, which can be taught. So that makes him say he runs a 4-5. If he recognizes the route quick enough, that 4-5 turns into a 4-4. So he'll get down there and he'll be able to break down on these routes and trigger downhill. And like I think when a split safety look, I think he's fine. Like, I don't want him as a single high. I don't think he has that type of range. But split safety looks and like something where he's got to trigger downhill, or if he's going right straight back in the cover 2, I think he'll be fine.
I think my favorite thing about this safety group for the Chiefs now, with Thornhill, Justin Reed, and Cook, who I expect to be the 3, folks, it's not going to be much of a question. They can all do the robber. They can all play split. And I think, honestly, they can all come down into the box when they need to. I'd like to see Reed blitz more. I didn't see enough of that. I didn't see it on tape, so I think it's there, but I haven't seen it. And Dan, back to you with Chanel. I think that was the reason. Like, I don't think he fell. I think that's where he always was. I think some of us liked him better, but the problem is for the league, they didn't get to see him cover. Like, the fact that he was never asked to do anything other than drop to a spot, I think that's what hurt his, like, projection. At least I never saw him take anybody in man. I never saw him do anything else besides a spot drop. Did you?
I saw one rep where he took his tight end up the seam. He realized that it was a pass, and then he knew that there was no one behind him, so he had to, and he did. He did it well, in my opinion. But again, he wasn't asked to do that. And for me, when I watched Wisconsin tape, that's because they said, we have this guy that wants to get downhill and just go hit somebody. And they said, fine, you go do that. You go ahead. You be a heat-seeking missile. We'll rush you. We'll blitz you. We'll do whatever we have to do to get you at the quarterback. But I think his testing showed, honestly, his change of direction shows up on film in rushing the passer too. He has a really good understanding of space, how to get his hips underneath him, his ankles moving in the right direction. He has a lot of that flexibility that you're looking for from not just a coverage standpoint, but also as a pass rusher. So these things kind of show up on tape. So as much as I think we have to try to project what he can do, I understand that the league may have seen it differently, but I'm just trying to understand that I think Wisconsin just said, go, just run off. Every once in a while, we'll drop you to a spot and just kind of have you be a body. And when someone throws it underneath, you just go hit them. Like, I get that. All of it makes a lot of sense. I see a little bit more in his physique and his own flexibility to be able to play some coverage. But now you're in Kansas City with Willie Gay Jr., with Nick Bolton, who both have seasons under their belt. And Nick Bolton got much better at getting to those spots and dropping into coverage as the season went along. I'm hoping to see another step in that direction from him. And I do think that they can mold Leo Chanel to be a little bit more of a coverage guy, but I think that they drafted him specifically because of the way that Wisconsin used him, and they want to use him in a very similar way as a third linebacker, as an overhang linebacker on run downs. And then when he gets to that third down, they can move him around. They can make him an extra pass rusher. They can make him a blitzer, some guy that mugs up and then can still get to that spot. So he's versatile enough to do that, but he's going to probably be still go get the quarterback kind of guy.
Yeah, and I love that. And Muggin, you're exactly right. That's my favorite thing. And I saw it against Michigan State, and I think Seth pulled one from Iowa. I hadn't seen that one.
Oh man.
But he can get down in an A gap and tilt up like he's a one tech.
Yeah.
And that narrowing of his shoulders, I think, really helps him. I don't know if that's going to work against the league once they see it a few times, but it worked great in college, and I love it. One of my favorite aspects of him, he's always like a mini D lineman, and that brings me to the D line group. EJ, were you surprised at just how little attention the D line group, the interior defensive lineman, got in this draft?
Yeah, I was a little surprised. The top guys went, Jordan Davis and the other Georgia kid, Devontae Wyatt. But after them, I thought it was some value later on in the draft with your Matthew Butlers and your Neil Farrell from LSU. I think it was some value there. I like the Travis Jones pick in the second round for the Ravens. It just wasn't the high end talent. The high end talent was just Jordan Davis, and that was pretty much it. It wasn't those big names that usually fans will gravitate to. But it was and those guys are specific roles. So they're basically your one tech. They're going to be, the two gapping, holding up blockers. If there was more pass rush ability, because that's all the league wants now. They all want pass rush. If it was more pass rush ability with these guys, then they would have went higher. But the league just looked at them and say, okay, they're specific roles. They're two gappers. They're they're run stuffers. That's why they went a little bit lower. But I mean, the league values pass rush. So anytime the defensive tackles can get after the quarterback, they're going to go a whole lot higher. But in this class, it wasn't a whole lot of those guys.
I'm with you there. I'm optimistic. I feel like this draft went pretty well. I know you mentioned the Ravens. I think you're not terribly far from Baltimore, so you probably have to hear this more than I do. But I'm about sick of hearing how great the Ravens are. But I do have to admit they draft like gangbusters. Yeah. How you let Jones and Faalele fall to them naturally is beyond me.
On top of that,
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. That's good.
I got no words. Baltimore everyone talks yearly, just draft good players, and Baltimore's like, you know what? We're gonna do that, and then just continuously draft good players.
Right? Like it's that simple. Like, okay, we're just gonna draft good guys. So. And they just
when it comes down, from what I understood, there was 122 guys on their board, and they got them all. I mean, the Patriots had 94, as I understand. I mean, that's how.
They also had Strange in the first round, so
they took my guy Zappy, though. They made me right. Thanks, Bill. Oh, okay. We'll finish it up here, and I know there's a lot. I'm not going to go into Justin Ross, but just in general, and EJ, I want to start with you because you have the outside perspective, and I love that. Who's the sleeper pick for the Chiefs in this draft? Who's the guy that you think maybe was undervalued in his draft selection, but could be a force off the bat on the field?
The kid from Fayetteville State, Joshua Williams. He's got all the physical tools that you want. I think he's going to take some time to develop, but he's got the tools for it. That's one thing. He can physically do the job. So now it's just that an issue of, can he learn the scheme? Can he learn the techniques? And I think he's going to be he's going to be a guy you put out there because you can never have enough cover guys. But yeah, if he picks up the scheme, I'm not saying year one impact, but as it goes on, I think he can develop into one of your solid rotation players in that back end.
I like it. What about you, Dan? Who's the sleeper we're not talking enough about?
I think it's Pachenko, and that's only because I think he can get on the field as a return man, a gunner type player. He's a big dude, 5'10", 5'11" at the running back position. You could, with that speed, you could probably slot him in as a special teams guy and have immediate impact. Year one, the Chiefs don't have a return guy. They don't want to put McCole Hardman out there. They don't. Byron Pringle left. He is now a Bear. Maybe not soon. We'll have to see about what happens with his legal situation. But there's that. But yeah, so they don't really have a return guy. And I think that Pacheco can do it. I think that the explosiveness from a running back standpoint and just a return area, he can do all of those things because you're not going to ask him to read like you would as a running back. He just find space. Just say, go find space. And he can do that. He does that very well. So I think that that's the area, that one guy that isn't getting talked about enough, that can actually come in year one and have some impact as a rookie.
So my guy, since EJ stole my guy, is now going to be Kennard. Kennard's going to get a shot to start. He's going to get into camp and he's going to battle Wiley. And I like a pissed off offensive lineman. That makes me happy. So if he is that point, and he's working with Duke and he's getting his feet quicker, he's dropping pounds, which I think he had some bad weight on him. I can give him that. He had 25, 30 to lose. I like a pissed off, more athletic, better foot, better trained offensive lineman. I think he has a chance to beat out Wiley, especially when you consider that Wiley might have to be the interior swing guy.
Yes, he does.
He might have to be backing up both guards and, good Lord, at tackles at this point. Who knows? We don't have any update on EJ Manuel. I'm sorry, EJ Manuel.
DJ Manuel.
Flashbacks on Lucas Niang. Sorry. I've got the quarterbacks on my brain now. I just want to wrap up with one more fun thing. Again, EJ, because our fans don't know you yet. Who's your favorite sleeper pick of this draft? Who's anywhere for any team? Who's your guy?
Let me think. Well, who I had in my as one of my sleepers, I did a sleepers article like the day before the draft, and I had a guy. His name was Feyen Hicks. I think Croc talked about him too on the Locked On. But he's a slot corner. I went to look at him. I'm like, how come nobody is talking about this guy? He's not tall. He's 5'10", something like that. Runs a 4.3. He's got ridiculous change of direction. If you looking for a slot corner, that's the thing with sleepers. They're not the high end guys that everybody's going to talk about because they're not on the outside or they can't do everything. But this guy, you put him in a specific role. If you tell him go be a slot cornerback and cover man to man, he's going to be good because that's what he does. That's what he did in college. That's what he does. He's got good change of direction. He's got good speed. He's physical. He can run. I think you make him a slot cornerback and he's going to be fine. I think not necessarily. I don't think he's going to be a Pro Bowler or anything like that, but I think he's going to make your final 53 and he's going to get on the field and play for you.
I like that kid. And now that Grinch is in studio with Dan, that really helps. So, it looks like Grinch. I can't really tell.
This is the Grinch, yes.
Okay. So let me narrow it up for you. Who's your favorite sleeper pick, or who's the guy you're most worried about in the AFC West that maybe we're not talking about? I'll let Dan take that one. We'll put it on him.
Let me think of it.
I'm gonna say, I think Greg Dulcich can actually be something that Albert O isn't, and I think that he can be more of a pass catching threat. I know that people think that Albert O is more athletic kind of guy, but I personally think they drafted Dulcich to give them more downfield and inline blocking. He's got the size to do it, and really it rounds out their receiving core with a guy that Russell Wilson can count on. I think he's going to have better hands than Albert O as well in the NFL. And that's a guy that can really make their offense more complete. You find a tight end that can go to on third downs with some run after catch ability, some strength, and you can actually slot him in there more on those double two tight end situations because they're going to use those more. They want to run the ball still with Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. So it really gives Russell Wilson another kind of safety blanket in that passing offense.
Yeah, I like that. I was going to go AFC West too. And if I did, folks, it would be Isaiah Spiller because I think he's going to help them out. And I think the Chiefs are going to have to watch him pretty good. But the guy that I've had in my head is looking towards the playoffs, a guy that I think that they're going to see that the Chiefs have to figure something out eventually. And it is for the Buffalo Bills. Their 5th round selection scares me because Khalil Shakir is that good. he changes their offense underneath Diggs. And I think that's going to be a challenge for the Kansas City Chiefs when they meet in the playoffs. And I expect them to. But that is a sleeper pick that I think we'll keep our eyes on all season long.
Yeah.
So,
I think I was going to say I think like the Raiders, their run game is something to watch because I was higher on Zamir White than a lot of people. I think he like without the injuries, I think he's going to be a monster. And just the fact that they got him and Josh Jacobs, they're probably going to run Josh Jacobs into the ground and let him walk as a free agent. And then they got Zamir White coming right back after that. He's got power and he's got long speed, and he's one of those guys that you can beat a defense into the ground with. So I think he's a guy to watch in the AFC West.
I like where you're coming from. I liked him too. I know Cook got all the attention. The guy who got the yardage was White. So hey, we're going to see something different from them, folks. Hope you enjoyed this. This is EJ Holt. You'll see him again if I point in the right direction somewhere. So I know it's the offseason. I know it's rookie training or mini camp. We're going to see more of the Chiefs here coming up soon. So thank you guys for being with us on a Sunday night. We appreciate your time. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell for anybody who's new to us. Tomorrow night, 6 Central, Q&A live. As always, we'll get to all of your questions and get on the road to the next season. It feels like it's right around the corner now. Man, I need to get some sleep. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Thank you all